Trusting God completely is not just a thought, a feeling, or a passing belief. It is a way of life. It is waking up every morning with the assurance that no matter what happens, He is in control. It is walking into the unknown with confidence, not because you have all the answers, but because you know the one who does. True trust in God is not partial. It is not dependent on circumstances. It is unwavering, steady, and deeply rooted in the understanding that His plans are higher, His wisdom is greater, and His love never fails. Life will test your faith. There will be moments of uncertainty, seasons of pain, and times when everything around you seems to be falling apart. It is in those moments that trust is truly measured. Will you hold on to faith when nothing makes sense? Will you believe in His goodness, even when the world gives you every reason to doubt? Trust is not just about believing when things are going well. It is about surrendering when things are not. It is about saying, Lord, I don't understand, but I trust You anyway. Many people struggle with complete trust because they want to be in control. They want answers, guarantees, and a clear path before they take a step. But God does not work that way. He asks us to trust Him even when we cannot see the full picture. He calls us to step out in faith, knowing that He will guide each step we take. Just like a child trusts a loving parent, we are called to trust God with childlike faith. Without fear, without hesitation. When you trust God completely, peace follows. Worry loses its grip. Fear fades away. Anxiety has no power over you because you know that your future is secure in His hands. This kind of trust allows you to rest, even in the middle of a storm. It gives you strength to stand firm when the world around you shakes. It gives you courage to move forward when everything inside you wants to turn back. God has never failed, and He never will. His promises are true, His word is unshakable, and His love is everlasting. He knows what is best for you, even when you do not understand. He is working behind the scenes, even when you cannot see it. He is leading you, protecting you, and shaping you for something greater than you can imagine. Surrender is the key. Trusting God completely means letting go of your need to control, your fears about tomorrow, and your doubts about His plan. It means placing everything, your dreams, your struggles, your hopes, and your worries in His hands. And when you do that, you will experience a peace that no storm can shake, a joy that no trouble can steal, and a strength that no battle can break. Trust Him, for He is faithful. Trust Him, for He is good. Trust Him because He will never let you go. Grace in words and actions is a reflection of a heart that trusts God completely. It is the ability to respond with kindness when faced with anger, to speak with wisdom when surrounded by confusion, and to act with love even when love is undeserved. A person who truly trusts God does not rely on their own strength, but allows His grace to shape their words and guide their actions. This grace is not just about being polite or gentle. It is about embodying the character of God in daily life, showing mercy where others would seek revenge, and offering peace where others would stir conflict. When trust in God is deep, grace flows naturally. It is easier to respond with patience when things go wrong because there is an understanding that God is in control. It becomes possible to forgive those who have wronged us because we trust that justice belongs to Him. Harsh words are replaced with words of encouragement, and instead of reacting in frustration, we learn to pause and respond with wisdom. A heart anchored in God does not need to prove itself through anger or pride. It rests in the confidence that He is the defender and provider. Life presents countless opportunities to choose between grace and reaction. Someone may insult, offend, or challenge us unfairly. In those moments, the natural response is to fight back, to defend, or to speak words that match the harshness received. But grace calls for a different approach. It asks us to see beyond the moment, beyond the offense, and respond in a way that honors God. This does not mean allowing others to mistreat us, but rather choosing not to let negativity define our words or actions. It is knowing that our strength does not come from winning arguments, but from trusting that God fights our battles. Grace in words means speaking life into others. It means choosing to uplift rather than tear down, to encourage rather than discourage. Words have the power to heal or to wound, to bring peace or to stir chaos. A heart that trusts God seeks to use words wisely, understanding that every conversation is an opportunity to reflect His love. When we trust Him, we do not need to use words to manipulate, control, or harm. We can simply speak truth in love and let Him handle the rest. Grace in actions is just as vital. It is choosing to serve even when it is inconvenient, to show kindness even when it is not returned, and to live with integrity when no one is watching. It is treating others with the same mercy that God has shown to us. When trust in God is complete, we no longer act out of fear, insecurity, or the need for approval. Instead, we act out of faith, knowing that His grace is enough. And in that grace, we find the strength to love, to forgive, and to be a light in a world that desperately needs it. Discipline and self-growth are deeply connected to trusting God completely. When a person truly believes that God has a purpose for their life, they embrace discipline, not as a burden, but as a pathway to fulfillment. Growth does not happen by accident. It requires intentional effort, perseverance, and a willingness to surrender personal desires for a higher calling. Trusting God means understanding that His ways are higher, His wisdom is perfect, and the process He leads us through is necessary for our development. Discipline is not just about avoiding distractions or maintaining routines. It is about aligning one's life with God's plan. A person who trusts Him does not live aimlessly, reacting to circumstances without direction. Instead, they cultivate habits that strengthen their faith, deepen their wisdom, and prepare them for greater responsibilities. This includes prayer, study, hard work, and the ability to say no to what is easy in order to say yes to what is right. Spiritual growth, like any other kind of growth, requires effort. A tree does not become strong without enduring storms, and a person does not develop character without facing challenges. When trust in God is firm, trials are no longer seen as obstacles, but as opportunities to grow stronger. Each difficulty becomes a lesson, each hardship a chance to develop endurance. The disciplined person does not give up when things become difficult because they know that God is refining them for something greater. Self-growth also means being willing to let go of things that hinder progress. This may include unhealthy habits, negative influences, or even personal mindsets that limit faith. A person who trusts God completely is willing to surrender anything that stands in the way of His purpose. It requires humility to recognize weaknesses, but it is in surrender that true growth happens. Trusting Him means believing that every sacrifice made for the sake of discipline will be rewarded in ways beyond imagination. There will be moments of exhaustion, times when discipline feels too difficult to maintain, but trust in God brings strength in those moments. He provides the endurance to keep going, the wisdom to make the right choices, and the peace to rest in His timing. Growth is not about perfection, but about persistence. Those who trust in Him do not measure success by immediate results, but by faithfulness in the process. A disciplined life is a life of purpose. It is waking up each day with a commitment to be better than yesterday, not for personal glory, but to glorify God. It is striving for excellence in work, in relationships, in faith, and in character. When trust in God is complete, self-growth is no longer just about achieving personal goals, but about becoming the person He created you to be. With discipline, faith, and unwavering trust, a life of purpose unfolds, shaped by His hands and guided by His love. Compassion and service are natural expressions of a heart that trusts God completely. When a person places full trust in Him, they no longer live only for themselves, but recognize the greater calling to love and serve others. True compassion is not just feeling sympathy for those who are suffering. It is a deep, active love that moves beyond emotion and into action. It is looking at the brokenness of the world and choosing to be a source of healing, not because it is easy, but because it is what God desires. Trusting God means believing that every act of kindness, Every moment of service and every sacrifice made in love is seen by him and will never be wasted. Many people hesitate to give of themselves because they fear lack of time, resources, or energy. But when trust in God is complete, there is no fear in giving. There is confidence that he will always provide, that he will always replenish, and that serving others is never a burden but a blessing. Compassion flows freely when there is faith that God is the ultimate provider. Service requires humility. It means stepping beyond personal comfort to meet the needs of others. A person who trusts God completely does not serve for recognition or reward, but because they know their life is meant to be a reflection of his love. They do not wait for the perfect time to serve. They simply serve whenever and wherever there is a need, whether it is offering a helping hand, speaking words of encouragement, or standing beside someone in their darkest hour. True service comes from a heart that trusts in God's plan. Life is filled with moments where compassion is tested. There will be times when people are difficult to love, when kindness is not returned, and when service feels unnoticed. But trusting God means serving anyway. It means believing that every act of love, no matter how small, has eternal value. Jesus himself served not only those who loved him, but even those who rejected him. A heart fully surrendered to God follows that same path, choosing to love, choosing to give, and choosing to serve regardless of how the world responds. Compassion and service are not about personal strength, but about allowing God to work through you. Trusting him completely means recognizing that he places people in your path for a reason. It means being willing to interrupt your plans to follow his purpose. It means loving not just in words but in actions, feeding the hungry, comforting the brokenhearted, lifting up the weary. True trust in God does not wait for the perfect opportunity to serve. It serves daily, in small ways and great ways, knowing that love is never wasted. A life of compassion and service is a life of fulfillment. It is living with open hands, open hearts, and open faith, knowing that God is working through every act of kindness. When trust in him is complete, love becomes the mission, and service becomes the greatest joy. Courage and boldness are not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. A person who trusts God completely understands that fear is a natural part of life, but it should never be the force that controls their actions. Trusting God means believing that he is greater than any challenge, stronger than any opposition, and faithful to lead his people through every storm. Courage does not come from human strength, but from the confidence that God is always with those who put their trust in him. Many people hesitate to step into their calling because they fear failure, rejection, or the unknown. But when trust in God is complete, those fears lose their power. The Bible is filled with stories of ordinary people who did extraordinary things simply because they trusted God enough to obey his call. David faced Goliath not because he was the strongest, but because he believed God was with him. Esther risked her life to save her people because she trusted in God's plan. Peter stepped out of the boat and walked on water because he believed in the power of Jesus. In every case, their courage was not rooted in themselves, but in their faith in God. Living with boldness means refusing to let fear dictate decisions. It means speaking truth even when it is unpopular, standing firm in faith when the world pushes against it, and pursuing dreams even when the path seems uncertain. Trusting God completely means knowing that he does not call people to comfort, he calls them to purpose. And purpose requires courage. It requires stepping out, taking risks, and believing that he will guide every step. Challenges will come and doubt may whisper lies, but courage is choosing to trust God more than those doubts. Fear says, what if I fail? But faith says, what if God is leading me to something greater? Fear says, I am not enough. But trust says, God is more than enough. The difference between those who fulfill their calling and those who hesitate is not ability, it is trust. Those who trust in God's power walk forward boldly, knowing that he equips those he calls. Boldness is also about perseverance. There will be times when stepping out in faith leads to opposition, when doing what is right is difficult, and when trusting God feels challenging. But true courage does not waver. It stands firm in the face of adversity, knowing that God is the one who holds the outcome. The strongest warriors in faith are not those who never face struggles, but those who never give up despite them. When a person truly trusts God, they live with boldness, knowing that He is always faithful. They take risks for His kingdom, speak truth with confidence, and pursue His purpose with unwavering faith. They know that they are never alone, that their steps are ordered, and that their courage is not their own, but is rooted in the power of the Almighty. Trusting Him completely is the foundation of a life lived with boldness